that's the first thing, which is kind of strange because this was announced on Thursday. But Ben Affleck is back as Batman in The Flash. So again, he's going to be joining Michael Keaton in the movie. Now, there's a lot of questions here. What does this mean? We knew that they were doing the Flashpoint thing, right? Flashpoint, if you're not aware, is sort of this idea of a multiverse, right? The multiverse in DC, right? Where there's an Earth 1 and an Earth 2, and there might be a different Batman over there, or there might be a different this or different that. There's different, some characters might have died in another universe, and they're not in this, it's kind of an interesting idea. And it's a way to be able to bring in, a fresh view of the DC universe. They've been doing this for years. This isn't a new thing. I've been reading some of the older graphic novels, and one of them in particular is the Infinity Crisis, where was it a Crisis of Infinite Earths, I think is what it's called. But it's basically all of these different versions of the character, which is pretty cool. And it's like Into the Spider-Verse. It seems like if you're into comics right now, there's multiverses everywhere. But it's a cool idea. So I assume that Ben Affleck's Batman is in, of course, the Flash's universe, and then we'll meet Michael Keaton at some point as Bruce Wayne in this other multiverse idea. I don't know how it's working. All I know is I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued, and I'm a fan of Ben Affleck. I know that there's, Ben Affleck got a lot of crap for Daredevil. In fact, he just every now and then would just get crap for something. Geely, right? Nobody liked Geely, I don't think. I didn't think Geely was as bad as everybody said it was. It wasn't good. It just wasn't that bad. It's kind of, in a way, Battlefield Earth was that way for me. When everybody was saying, "Oh, it's so bad," and then I watch it, I'm like, "Yeah, it's bad, but it's not bad." But then I think I remember it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. But like, what was John Carter? I don't understand the hate for John Carter. I don't understand why everybody kind of blasted that movie. I enjoyed it. But I loved his take on the Batman. Of course, one of the big things about his portrayal of, Bruce Wayne as Batman or whatever is that, Bruce Wayne basically dies when his parents get killed and the Batman takes over. And then when he comes back to Gotham after he's done all of his training and stuff, and he's basically now the Batman, Bruce Wayne is now the Mask, if that makes sense. So it's the way that Ben Affleck played it is a little different than some of the other. Of course, I guess that's always been there, but I think that Ben Affleck had a very interesting take on it, and I like the way that he portrayed Bruce Wayne and Batman together. And this is so weird because, now we've got this other version of the Batman with Robert Pattinson. So how is that going to interplay? Is it going to interplay? Is it almost like the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix and then the Batman with Robert Pattinson? Is that like a separate multiverse? Is that kind of like a one-off story? Like DC has been doing that for years, where they'll just write a story that has nothing to do with any of the continuity that's going on in the rest of DC. They'll just kind of write off one. Hey, this is the story of blah, or whatever. Like, I've got a ton of them. Like Gotham by Gaslight is just it's a Batman story, but it's set in turn of the century England, and Batman is chasing after Jack the Ripper. It's an interesting story. It's fun. The Killing Joke really was kind of a one-off story at the time. So it's weird how they're doing this with the movies too, and I'm not sure if any of it is going to be like continuous, or if it's just going to be, hey, this is its own thing. We don't know. But was trying to, yeah. So there's a lot of interesting things about this. I don't know if you guys have seen all of this. Affleck got the script at the end of last week and agreed this week to join the project. So that could mean two things, really, right? One is this is absolutely true, but they wrote him in such a small part that if Affleck said, I'm not interested, then they could easily write him out and it wouldn't have that domino effect that happens when you have a character that's no longer in the movie. Just ask Billy of the Game Chasers. Ask him what that's like. Because you change one thing and it has a ripple effect across the whole script. So you have to be very, very careful with that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So either this is absolutely true and they basically had two versions of the script, one with Batman / Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck, and one without, or he's known about this for a long time and he got the final script at the end of last week and agreed this week. So like John Campea, right? I mean, I know I'm, in a way I'm pushing another show. But one of the things that he said that I thought was really interesting is that in a lot of ways, this is probably not, I think it was actually Robert Meyer Burnett that said this, but he basically said, there's no chance that this is the first time he's seen it, or this is the first that he knows about it, especially when the Snyder Cut stuff started happening. Ben Affleck was probably brought in and said, hey, look, we're writing this script for Flash, which hasn't been shooting yet, by the way. We're writing this script for Flash. Would you be interested if we put you in as a sort of almost a catalyst type character or whatever? So my guess is that he's known about this. Affleck has. He's known about this for a long time. And this is just the first time he saw the final script. He might have said something like, sure, go ahead and write it in, but just just fair warning, if I'm not a fan of it, I'm just not going to do it. And they're like, oh yeah, sure. But it's like, this is the other question is, how much is he going to be in the movie, right? He's a very substantial part of the emotional impact of the movie. And to me, that means that he's probably not going to be in it very much. It could mean that he's like, those of you who have seen Spider-Man Homecoming, Iron Man is in it, and he's in it sort of as a mentor type role, and that's kind of what they're doing here with Batman and the Flash. So, or it sounds like that's what they're doing, It's like the interaction and relationship between Barry and Affleck's Wayne will bring an emotional level that we haven't seen before. So I think that's pretty fair, that it's probably going to be a lot like Homecoming, Spider-Man Homecoming, in which Batman is sort of the Iron Man to kind of. I mean, there's even something that I read earlier, and I don't even know if this is true or not, but I read it and it said that Batman has something to do with the Flash's suit, even more related to that same sort of thing. It's weird how much they borrow from each other, like Marvel and DC, they kind of do similar things. They have similar, kind of story, not stories, but even stories, but they have similar, like almost like marks in their stories. Oh well, this catalyst, is almost the same as this catalyst over here in this version of the. Anyway, it's just weird. But I like this where he says, and this is Muschietti, right? He's the, I believe he's the director, right? Isn't that his name? Andy Muschietti, the filmmaker behind the okay, yeah, okay, directed by Andy Muschietti. He says, I'm glad to be collaborating, which is interesting, who has been on both sides of the camera too. He understands. So, what does this mean? Does it mean anything? Should we not look into it? I don't like looking into that stuff because we don't know. And as you know, expectations can sometimes just kill a movie. because you're expecting, oh, I wanted Bruce Wayne to be in half the movie or Batman to be in half the movie, and when he's not, then you're disappointed. Let's wait and to see, kind of how things play out here. But I think it'll be fun. I think I'm starting to see a sort of a momentum shift, and I think it's because Marvel, sort of peaked with the Infinity War and Endgame, and they're kind of on a cool off period a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see if if this is a thing, and if it's worthy. I kind of feel like there's been a lot of missteps with DC, but hey, I'm interested. I don't know about you guys. Bring on my fave Keaton, of course. How you doing, Dave? But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the story is going to be, because I'll be honest with you, I don't know the Flashpoint story. So the idea of them going from, I just love it. I love the idea of going from universe to universe, and I mean, how cool would it be if they brought in Christian Bale? Or even George Clooney would never do it, never. But it'd be cool to have some of those actors in there. I don't know. I think it'd be cool. And I will say this too. DC fandom today, there's a lot of talk that Henry Cavill is going to be back as Superman. So we'll see how that goes. Of course, I'll be watching the rest of DC fandom later tonight. The stuff that I'm missing, because I'm here talking to you guys. But anyway, yeah, man, it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool, and it's really cool to see that they're doing something bigger than just telling this little tiny story or this little tiny story. They're trying to build something really big. I think it's cool. But, of course, the other news, this week, Dave, it's going to be cool. I can't say that I was like super excited. Like, oh my God, Ben Affleck's back as Batman. But it was like, man, that's cool. That's cool that they're doing that. So, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. The thing about Ben is you don't know if he's going to bring in something new. Like, is this going to be the start of a new, is he going to be able to come back and do his Batman movie? Who knows? There's just a lot of, as far as Ben Affleck himself, the person goes, he went through a pretty rough time, got over some alcohol addiction. Now he seems to be back on his feet, and he's got a lot of projects underway. But is this the send-off for Ben Affleck in DC? Or is this something new? We don't know. Octavius, what's up? CGI Adam West. I actually thought of that, and I'm like, they could totally do it. They'd have to get of course, sign off from Adam West's estate, I guess. I don't know how that works. I always feel a little bit uneasy with that kind of stuff, just because I feel like there's a fine line, because you can really turn people off by doing something like that. But if it's done well, just like Tarkin, yes, I'm 100% on board with that idea, because he was awesome. And unfortunately, I don't know the actor's name, but the guy that basically was the stand-in and acted as Peter Cushing in Rogue One was amazing. We shall see. It's such an interesting idea to bring in all of these different Batmans. I mean, could we see Christopher Reeve Superman? I mean, while we're talking about it, you never know. Could we see Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern? And that could be like a separate universe? Linda Carter as Wonder Woman? I mean, Now, what's kind of interesting is that Linda Carter was on the Wonder Woman panel earlier. I don't know if you guys saw that. So, who knows? Who knows what they're going to do? George Reeves, the original Superman, like black and white Superman. That'd be interesting. There's a lot of things they could do. It's just, does it has to be for a good reason. At least that's how I look at it. But it's you're also walking that tightrope where it's like we have to be we can't go too far because we're gonna tick people off. But I guess if they have the estate's permission, then I would say sure, why not, right? It's so many possibilities.
Is it
now I can hear. Okay, sorry, I didn't realize
Hello,
that.
David Reeves. G'day, Octavius.
Yeah.
Good morning, Crystal, or it's evening for you guys, right? I assume that Crystal is. Did Crystal say she's British or something?
I don't know.
Either way, it'll be evening, right?
It's 4 o'clock.
In America and in the UK.
Yeah, it's 4 o'clock.
It's afternoon for you guys.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. But sorry, guys. It is tomorrow for Bucho. He is in the future.
It's already Sunday here, Octavius.
Yeah.
We're in the future.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sunday morning, 9 a.m. So let's get on. Let's talk more about this politics.
Oh, no.
About politics.
No.
Yeah, politics and also race in Hollywood.
No.
Those were the two things we were talking about before I came on.
Let's
want to talk more about that?
No.
Okay.
I guess it's like this.
I'm just kidding anyway.
No, I know. But, I mean, you guys have been watching long enough to know that it's just like a 5 out of 863. That's what this movie is. Thanks, David. I don't know what that means, but
right on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm pretty sure. I don't know how to put that fraction into Rotten Tomatoes, but I'm pretty sure that means it's rotten.
Yeah. But no, I have a lot of views. I have a lot of thoughts on that stuff. But that's not for this show. This show is supposed to be about fun. It's supposed to be about an escape. The one thing I hate about Twitter is that I use Twitter to promote this show, but I'm constantly inundated with everybody's opinions on this guy and this person. And oh my gosh, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I don't want to engage in that. Sometimes I want to turn all of that off and I want to be able to go to a place where I can not have to think about that stuff. So that's what this show is supposed to be.
I don't use Twitter that much, but I did notice that this morning, the hashtag that was trending on my feed was hashtag New Zealand Hellhole or NZ Hellhole, because apparently some British far-right politician, this will be the last thing I'd say about any politics, but talked about how New Zealand is this far-right hellhole right now. Not a far-right, he said it's a hellhole right now that's under military dictatorship or something, because we do have the military taking care of some of the quarantine facilities. And so what was trending was, New Zealand does sarcasm pretty well. So it's a whole bunch of people taking photos of how beautiful everything is. They're out walking, they're in cafes, everyone's out and about and saying, man, this is such a hellhole. So that's all I know about what Twitter's talking about today. Although I know on your feed it's talking about DC Fan Fest or
Fandom.
What is it called?
Yeah, or Fandom. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of... Huh? What'd you say?
Fandom, is it?
Yeah, Fandom. That's the website. Twitter should have Nightbot. That would be amazing, actually. Yeah. Does Twitter have a moderator? Because that would be nice. But that's okay.
Morning, Eagleford, and good morning, Nightbot. So you had a busy morning, Nightbot.
Yes. Nightbot has been busy, spanking my fans a little bit. Or I wouldn't say, I don't know about fans, my viewers. How's that? Not everybody's fans. It's okay. They can come in here. Like David just comes in here to stir up crap. So it's okay.
One other thing I heard in your first hour of the show was you talked about how Geely's not as bad as people say it is. I agree with you. Geely and Pluto Nash, and this probably goes back to our ongoing million years long discussion about hang on, I'm going to write down these lotto numbers. About expectations. Geely and Pluto Nash, when I saw them, I was expecting absolute trash fires. And because of that, I pretty much enjoyed them because they weren't. I mean, I've only seen each of them once, so that
Right.
tells you how much I
Right.
loved them. Which was I didn't love them, but I enjoyed them.
Well, it's like there.
Fun
I
enough.
don't know. It's almost like there's this. It's not like cancel culture. I don't want to go into that either. Okay, David. I don't want to go into that either. But there seems to be like a movie comes out, one or two reviews don't like it, and then everybody piles up on it. You know, like John Carter was one of those that I just felt like everybody piled up on it, and I'm like, this movie was like entertaining. Now, The Lone Ranger, I remember that one. I was really enjoying the movie until about halfway through the movie, and then they basically commit genocide, and then Johnny Depp's back and telling jokes, and I'm like, this is weird. I get it now. I get why people don't like The Lone Ranger, but man, some of them are they're not so bad.
I haven't seen The Lone Ranger.
It's a weird one. It's a weird one.
It's a Gore Verbinski movie, right?
Yeah.
I should watch The Lone Ranger.
But there's
just out of curiosity, at least.
There's a tone issue. It's kind of like, you know how like some movies toe that line between being serious and being funny or entertaining and whatever. This is supposed to be kind of like a family film, and then they just basically come into this place and they kill a bunch of Native Americans and basically wipe out a tribe. And it was like, that's not entertaining. That hurts a little bit. That sucks. I don't like it. So
I get you. I agree with you about John Carter, though. I have seen John Carter.
Yeah,
and that was fun. You know,
I didn't love it.
It's the same thing. You know, I heard it was going to be rubbish. Turned out it was fine.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good stuff in it.
Now, I actually wanted to bring up a couple of things. There's one thing that I didn't get to yet because Nightbot was keeping me busy. No, I'm kidding. But I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. So last night,
I'll lean in.
Billy did a video on his channel about physical media and how physical media is dying and we should support it. So I'm kind of curious as to what your ideas on that are. Do you care? Is it one of those things where you're just like, I'll just buy digital. I don't care. I like Netflix. I don't need to own the thing. What do you think?
I mean, my thoughts on physical media sort of break down into two sort of categories. One, I prefer digital just because it's so much easier to click on Disney Plus, go through a million things, a million options without having to worry about discs. But the problem with any streaming service, and I think you might have maybe talked to Jay about this once, they can pull any of those things off their services anytime. So then they decide whether you can watch it or not. So if you've got a disc, you have more, I don't know what the word is, sovereignty over your entertainment. So, but I have really pulled back on collecting any sort of digital media. I guess the difference isn't digital versus physical. It's more, do you own it versus do you stream it, right? Because you can download an MP4 or an MP3, and then it doesn't matter if they pull it off the platform. You've still got it on your, you can back it up wherever you want. But if you only rely on any sort of streaming service, they can pull stuff whenever they want and take away those options. So, I mean, they each have their charms. And I mean, the downside with physical media is you need somewhere to store it all, right? You end up, especially if you have, like I used to have, maybe too much of a collector personality, and you end up with stacks and stacks of stuff that you're never going to have time to watch it all anyway, but you just want to own it because there's some nice feeling that comes with owning it. And so a while ago, maybe about 10 years ago, I just had to cut myself off from buying so many discs, So I've got a few back here somewhere, but I haven't bought anything on a disc for a long time now. Most of the stuff I own will be something I can download, but even that, there's complications with that sort of stuff as well. If you buy something from iTunes, that still is really stored on iTunes, isn't it? You still need iTunes to watch it. The same with a lot of podcasts. Stitcher has this app that you can only listen to their podcast through this app.
Mhm.
Even if you download this podcast to listen offline or whatever, you still can only listen to it through the app. So ultimately, they still have control over it. So I guess each has their charms, and as with anything, diversity is the answer, right? Diversify your portfolio. Have some stuff that you own, have some stuff that's just streaming. You know? If you really love something, you're gonna buy it. We both love movies, but you have more of a passion about it, so you own a lot more stuff than I do.
Well, that's the weird thing is that, because I worked at Blockbuster, that whole I got to have it physical, it was sort of ingrained in me at that time.
Sure.
So I don't know how many. I think it's like, I want to say it's like 300 or 400 Blu-rays. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Almost that many DVDs. And I already got rid of all my most of my VHS. I still have some. Some of like the really collectors, like I have the widescreen Star Wars up there, right? I still have that, and that's the originals before the special edition version. So I mean, it's that kind of stuff that I keep. But it's what I did is, and this was back, 2012, something like that. I think I converted all of my Blu-rays to digital. I ripped them myself. I converted them. Did all the work, getting them converted, and I have them all. And then I also have the discs, and the discs are boxed up, so I don't even whatever. The problem is now there's 4K. Now there's so many other movies that I wish that I'd owned, but I just never bought, and now you can't get them anymore. And it's like it's one of those things where I completely get the idea. And what Billy is basically saying is he's going after them for the kind of stuff that they did when they, with Gone with the Wind. But he was bringing up The Office because there were a couple of episodes that were, controversial, and somebody took them off. I don't know who took them off, but I get it. You want to, especially when it's something where you're like, that's what people are upset about. Okay. There's opinions there. Something, what offends you might not offend me, and vice versa. So it's like, it's so tough. It's so tough to know what's going to offend somebody today. You never know. And we live in this.
Well, what's going to offend somebody in 15 years? The same thing happened with 30 Rock, because 30 Rock had episodes where there was blackface. There were, I think, 4 episodes where blackface was a part of the episode. And so they pulled all those. And so if you don't own those discs, you can't go back and watch them and see what all the. I mean, I don't want to dismiss it or negate it or minimize it by saying what all the fuss was about, but as a turn of phrase, to see what it is that has been pulled,
right,
and make up your own mind about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a tough thing. You know what I mean?
South
Because
Park pulled the Muhammad episode finally, right?
I don't even know what happened to that. I honestly don't know. But there's and this is something I'd never went back to check. Back in January, I think, iTunes had The Office on sale, and I'd never watched it, so I bought the whole series on iTunes. I don't know if they've removed it off of there. Like if you buy the whole set or the whole the whole season or whatever, I don't know if they took that episode out or not, or they edited it. I don't know. I haven't gone back to check, but I already watched it all. And I remember it being one of those things. It's clearly the idiot in the room doing something stupid, and the black dude calling him out going, nope, you're not doing that. And that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think. So it was kind of one of those things where it was like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
the whole point is that this is wrong. The show is telling you that it's wrong. If the joke is that the person doing blackface, for example, is an idiot, then the message of the episode, of the story, is that if you do blackface, you're an idiot.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's such a touchy subject, and it's one of those things that. But I mean, for me, I was.
How do we get back onto this, Robbie?
Well, I brought it up, physical media, because to me, it's like
coming back to these political hot potatoes.
Maybe I shouldn't.
It's in the air right now.
But it's
even
like
if you try not to, if you try to ignore it, you'll get hit in the head by one.
I know. But you're kind of along with me that I really it's one of those things where a lot of times, I think at a certain point, I started realizing that I'm buying movies that I really liked, but they're not movies that I would watch more than a couple times anyway. So by the time I've gone in here and ripped it and put it on my hard drive, I'm already done with the movie. You know, and I can not watch it for another 10 years and I'll be fine. You know what I mean? So it's a weird thing. Now, David was saying you can own a movie and watch it all you want. You can without it being removed. I'm going to show off right now. I have the Laserdisc collection of Star Wars, the 89 version. Yeah, that's one thing I never bought were the Laserdiscs. Nobody in the internet doesn't know what Blackface is. It's one of those things where it's almost like why go that route, but I understand. I understand how it could be one of those things where it's like, okay, this stuff is just not funny. But it's clearly, like, at least in the case of The Office, it's the only one that I know what they're talking about because I've never seen 30 Rock. It was clearly the idiot talking about, oh, I'm going to bring him in. What? No, you're not. You know what I mean? And it's one of those, it's kind of he's an idiot and he doesn't know any better because he's just an idiot. He's clearly the idiot in the room. There's nothing wrong with that. But anyway, I could be wrong. There could be something that I'm not remembering. I don't know. But anyway, I was just curious on your thing. Now, here's what I wanted to bring up, and the reason why I brought it up is almost a rebuttal to Billy. I love Billy to death, and I know that he's in a good place, or he's in a place of that physical media should be embraced. It should be whatever. But here's the truth. This year, spending when it comes to movies. This is off of the digital bits. I can't bring this up because then the thing will get screwed up. But the digitalbits.com is basically the place if you want to know about physical releases when it comes to movies. Digital Bits is one of the best resources out there. Period. I've been going there since like '97. Been there a long time. But spending across all categories is up 26% for the first half of 2020. But
physical media.
Quarter 1 2020 is down 22.4%.
So wait a minute, the overall spend, that encompasses all home media?
Home media.
It doesn't encompass the cinema, right?
It's everything. It's digital, Netflix, all of that. Home
does
spending.
It include music?
I don't think so. Let me see. Total home entertainment spending of all categories was up. 33% electronic sales, 33% up for video on demand, and 37% up for subscription streaming. That's where the digital spending was. Digital spending is up 36%. Physical spending is down 22.4% in quarter 1 and down 11.11% in quarter 2. So, basically what I'm trying to say is there's not enough people that believe that physical media is something to be embraced. That's the issue right now. Is that enough? There's not enough people. I mean, the fact that some of the major manufacturers for Blu-ray players have already bowed out and said we're not doing it anymore. We're not making them anymore. And then he brought up one of the only things where I think it was like a little bit of a fallacy in Billy's video. And Billy, I'm not calling you out. I'm just saying let's be honest here. He said he was blaming Disney for buying Fox and then not releasing anything. The problem is Fox had already released what they were going to release, and they'd been holding off on a lot of James Cameron movies because they require his go-ahead. And that's the issue. It wasn't so much that Disney came in and said, well, we're just going to sit on them, and you have to watch them on streaming. That wasn't really what it was. James Cameron approved those transfers. And so what's weird is he approved the transfers. That's if you see every now and then you'll catch True Lies on streaming, it's in 4K. So they've already done the conversion, but he didn't approve the releases. So, I'm just saying, it's not all Disney's fault. right? At least that's my. Let's see, Michael. Oh well,
Disney is such a fun scapegoat, though. You
what?
know, they're
Who?
so massive. Disney.
Oh yeah.
It's so fun to scapegoat them
Oh yeah.
because they're the empire.
Well, and I mean, gosh, even Lucas himself. You watch that interview with I don't even remember who was interviewing him for 60 minutes, wasn't it?
You're going to talk about when he called them when he said it was like slavery or something.
Yes. Yeah. The thing is, look, it's Disney is a huge company, and it's easy to point the fingers and say that they're all that stuff. I get that. But I really don't think that was their intention, was to, let's buy all of Fox's properties so we can sit on them and never release them again. I just don't think that was in their thinking. It's, look at the numbers. Spending is down a lot. I mean, look, okay, so it breaks it down per week, 20%. This is starting July 4th, and this is every week, down 20%, down 11%, down 35%, down 23%, down 18%, down 27%. Week after week, it is down from last year's, which was down from the previous year. So people are just not spending money on discs. It's just the honest truth. And it's one of those things that it might be this call for wanting to buy digital, or buy physical, I mean, maybe a little bit too little too late, because the consumers have already made their choice across the board, and the manufacturers of Blu-ray players have noticed it, and the sales don't support them putting out those kinds of releases, which is why a couple of weeks ago I had said what would be interesting is if you had those little companies like Shout Factory and Criterion, where they do special editions of, movies or whatever, and what they do is that they put them on sort of like a Kickstarter type thing, so they can gauge the reaction to it. So if you could help support it, you're not spending a ton of money to get it. You're basically saying, yes, I would buy this Blu-ray. Here's my credit card information. I want to pre-order it. And if you get everybody to do that, then they can say, okay, there's enough people here to warrant this release. And if they get past a certain point, just like Kickstarter has the stretch goals, if they get above this, then we'll produce a new documentary with new interviews and new all that stuff. But if they only reach the, you know what I'm saying? I think it makes sense to do it that way. And let's be honest, the studios, a lot of them outsource all of the special features anyway. So, it's just a thought. I remember the Oscar one. Oh, David's talking about the Office stuff. Blu-ray art, all seasons in 1080p. They're amazing because one have deleted scenes. That's the one thing that I don't like about the iTunes releases of The Office. None of the deleted scenes, none of the special features are on there. So like the discs have, the gag reels and things like that. I have to go to YouTube to find those if I want to watch those. They're not available on iTunes, which is kind of a bummer. But yeah, the Billy video of physical media it was very good, and he really kind of points out all of the issues why physical is preferable to digital. But the thing is, there's just it's almost too far gone. That's all I was trying to get to. It may be too far gone, and we need to look at somebody like Shout Factory or Criterion or any of these other specialty disc makers to take the reins and do like Kickstarter type things.
If you really like that behind the scenes stuff, David, I don't know if you listen to many podcasts, but there is a podcast that the actors who played Pam and Angela do, where they watch an episode of The Office. So there's basically an Office podcast where what are they? I can't remember their names, but it's the actress who played Angela and the one who played Pam. This is Pam, right?
Mm-hmm.
They watch an episode and then talk about it, and they have guests on, like other actors from the show, writers and what have you. So
he says he knows about it.
The Sopranos now. Yeah, if you're a fan of the Sopranos, it's I can't pull any of the names at the moment. But apparently that's a thing now where actors from shows do a rewatch of the show, and they
I
do
think
their
it's
own
amazing.
podcast about. I mean, everyone's doing podcasts now. There's what's it? Deacons. Have you listened to Deacons podcast?
No,
Roger
and
Deakins.
it's
There's one with
one.
Joel Cohen. There's one with Denis Villeneuve. Those are the only 2 episodes I've listened to, but those are both good, man. Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, I cannot wait for Dune. I'm so excited. I've seen like what 5 images, and I'm so excited
How
because
far are you through the book now?
I'm about 30% through, and apparently the book or the movie is supposed to be like the first half,
Right.
and
Okay.
I love it. I just love it. It's like
I might get that book because then we can talk about it as well. That'll be fun. We can have our own little book club about Dune, but you'll finish it before I will. But because I'm only book I'm reading right now is nonfiction, so I do need another fiction to go. I like reading one nonfiction and a fiction at the same time to sort of balance out. So I need to
right.
get a fiction in. So I should finally read Dune.
See, my problem is
Maybe
that
at a better time.
well, partially like what I was talking about with being on Jay's streams, it's kind of a time suck, just because you just get sucked in and you don't want to, you're constantly engaged almost on his show, and you're constantly telling jokes and he's telling jokes and you're laughing and you're having a good time. You're watching him play Tetris or whatever he's playing, and it's just a fun, relaxing time. And then you look up and it's 4:00 in the morning and you're like, holy crap, this is ridiculous. I shouldn't be watching this. So, but yeah, that with books, my problem is that I have a hard time I can't read 2 books at once. It screws me up because it takes me too long to remember where I was.
Right.
And I hate the idea of, it's just like, cause have you ever read Lord of the Rings?
I read it twice, yeah.
Okay.
Read
Return
the
of the
whole thing
King.
twice.
Return of the King is a perfect example of this, when there's a split between characters or sets of characters. And you get to where you get to the next chapter and you're like, oh crap, man, I want to find out what happened. I hate that. I hate it when they do that kind of stuff. So imagine when that with books, where I get sucked into a book and I want to find out what's going on. And then I'm like, oh, but it's time to switch over to another. No, I can't do that. I just couldn't do it.
The first time you read Lord of the Rings, how did you get through it all the way the first time, or did you start reading it and those first 80 pages are so dense that you had? I mean, obviously, I'm describing what happened to me when I read
Yeah.
The Hobbit and when I was 13 or 12 or something because we
Mhm.
did it in school, and that's such a breeze. Loved it. Read it probably 3 times that year. Tried to read Lord of the Rings because I loved The Hobbit. After like 60 pages, I can't read this. Put it down. Try again a year later, maybe get 80 pages in. This is just put it down. Finally, maybe the 3rd or 4th time, you get past those pages, and all of a sudden, there's momentum, and it takes off. But the first few times I tried to watch it, this is when I was younger as well. Maybe if you try to read it as an adult, it's easier. But when I was a kid, I guess I would have been 14, 15 or something by the time I finally got through it. I couldn't hack those first 80 pages the first few times.
I've read the whole thing twice, and I was trying to. I love the idea that Christopher Lee said in the special features, where he said he loves to read it once a year, and I thought that is amazing. I love it. No, after I got to what I did was I read it through the first time, loved it, read it through the second time, and was like, same problem that I have with the movies is Two Towers bores the crap out of me. Return of the King is so disjointed because it's half with these guys and half with these guys. I can't stand that. Fellowship of the Ring is beautiful to me. I love that book. But I got through Fellowship of the Ring the 3rd time and got to Two Towers and was like, nope, not doing it again. I can't. But this is the interesting thing, and I pointed this out yesterday when I was talking with Leon. I want to show you this. The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings is 3 movies each. That's The Hobbit. That's Lord of the Rings. Same publisher. These are kind of special edition books with paintings and shit. That's how long the books are. So they made 3 movies out of this, and they made 3 movies out of this. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the problem with Hobbit.
Yeah, that's one of the problems.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. There are multiple issues.
Well, I've only seen each of the Hobbit movies once. I've probably seen the Lord of the Rings movies at least 5 times each. You know.
I can't stand the Hobbit movies. Are so I just don't like them. I feel like they're too. Let's add this. Let's add Legolas in. Let's add, and not that I hate Legolas or I hate I don't even remember Evangeline Lilly's character. It's just it's not in the book. And you're slowing down the pace of what the Hobbit is a breeze to get through. I love that book. And I love Fellowship, but then Two Towers is just a slog. For me, it's even the movie. The movie's like everybody's like, "Oh, I love Two Towers and I love Return of the King." I'm like, "You like different things than I do. I like character and lore." Two Towers is where everything really starts kicking off, and it's just plot. It's mostly just plot. And I find I can't even remember the horse people. Yeah, I can't. They bore me.
Even though Carl Urban's up there gallivanting away.
I love Carl Urban, but he cannot save the slog that is the Rohirrim.
That is that is right.
It's just
it's been a while since I've seen them. I need to watch them for the 6th time each.
But it's one of those things where it really is. It's almost it's. I love lore and character, and Fellowship is full of that, and it's so rich and beautiful. And when they're all together, all 9 of them, of course, Rip Boromir, but spoilers for a 60, 70-year-old book. But I don't know. It's just one of those things. But Dune is. I can see why people might not like Dune, but it really works for me, and I'm really digging it. And for some reason, I felt like it was going to be hard to get through, like Fellowship, because people were saying that, maybe it was a review I read that said it was a lot like Lord of the Rings in that there's a lot of lore set up and all that stuff, and it's kind of hard to get through. I was really enjoying it. And
there's a lot of politics in it, right? From what I've heard.
A little bit. There's little hints
that
of that.
That seems to be what everyone talks about. These houses and it's a whole politics.
Right. And I
should just shut up. I should just read it.
That's I assume
what I should do.
I assume because there's like, okay, so Frank Herbert wrote 6 books, and most people say that the first 3 are kind of like those are the best. That's the best of all of it. And then I assume it was around that time that Frank Herbert died, and then his son, with Kevin J. Anderson, I believe is his name, Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson started writing books, and now there's like 20-something of them. And I'm like, well, let's just get through the first one and see if I like it. Then if I like that, then I'll read the 3. And then if I like that, I'll read the 6. And then if I'm really into it, then I'll read more. But I just don't see myself, especially from some of the reviews I've read of some of the other ones. They're like, yeah, it's okay. It passes the time. But I've got a lot of books to read, so.
Both Octavius and David Rebus have made great points. Octavius says, if you want to read 2 books at one time, what's the problem? You have 2 eyeballs. So, got a lot of books to read.
That is true.
Multitask with your eyeballs.
I don't know.
And David Rebus says, who reads, get yourself an audio book. Reading is gross. And considering how many podcasts I listen to, that I'll spend hours a day listening to podcasts sometimes, that is something I've considered and think is a great idea. I just haven't got onto it because there's so many podcasts that I listen to, but that is what I should be doing. Who was it? Leon was in the chat on Wednesday talking about the Discworld books being narrated by Nigel Planer from the Young Ones. And so that's another one. Although I've read most of the Discworld books. I would listen to Nigel Planer read things. He's got that. He's not, I'm not going to say he's Stephen Fry because nobody's Stephen Fry, but if you love someone like Nigel Planer, you'd probably be happy to hear him read the Discworld, especially if you also love the Discworld. So maybe I'll give one a go. But maybe, although I'm looking at the Dune audiobook, I'll look into that because I do listen to a ton of stuff. Even like I was saying this morning, the first hour of the show, I was doing chores and stuff, listening to you. So I'm always listening to stuff when I'm doing stuff.
And
so I should listen to audiobooks.
My problem is that I get with audiobooks. I've talked about this before. I don't know where, but I know I've talked about this many times. Is that my problem with audiobooks is that I get distracted and then I have no idea what's going on, and I have to. I hate having to go back to figure out what I missed.
Right.
With a book, it's easier. If I get distracted, I'm like, okay, I'll just reread that sentence. I know exactly how far or how long it, I've been distracted. But I get it. But audiobooks are just not for me. Now, there are some that I'm interested in, though, because I know, like, Star Wars has been doing those. They're almost like audio dramas, with voice actors and sound effects and all that stuff. And I'm like, that might be an interesting way to go about it. And I think I want to say there's a Count Dooku, sort of, like, it's like all about Count Dooku, and it's about him, and it's an audio drama, and they said that the book is like reading a screenplay, so you might as well listen to the audio drama. And I'm like, okay, well, when I get to that, I'll get that. But
there's also, remember, I hope from J Guys and Jedi told us about the one about Hondo. There's a kid's book. It's about Hondo meeting Han Solo and Chewbacca.
Yeah.
And it's read by, what's his name? Who plays
Cummings.
Hondo? Jim Cummings, right?
Yeah.
Who's you can listen to Hondo voice anytime. It'll make your day better. There's some people, like, if I hear David Attenborough's voice, if I hear Jim Cummings' voice, another one is Matt Serra, the UFC fighter. I love his podcast just because he's like this Long Island, New York, loud dude, and he's just this bundle of joy. There's some people treasure. That it doesn't matter what's going on, you just listen to them and it makes your day better. And Jim Cummings is one of those. Listen to that Hondo voice. All of a sudden, you have a skip in your stride.
Yeah.
I'll have to check.
He does have a really great voice. And see, David said getting an audiobook is also buying physical media. You can hear bad acting. You almost had a point there, David. Oh, and by the way,
Pirate's Price. I think it's the Pirate's Price is the Hondo one.
Yeah.
So anyone who has watched the animated Star Wars and knows who Hondo is and loves Hondo, I think it's the Pirate's Price. Look up that, and I will too. Look it up. In fact, I might try and look at that before we do our J Guys and Jedi guest spot in a couple of weeks or whenever that is.
That is an amazing segue. I was actually going to ask you about that. Like what?
Yeah, I should check the emails because I haven't heard back. So you talk a little bit about whatever you want to talk about.
Okay. Well then, show. Guys, if you
tell you what to do on your show.
If you hadn't, come on. If you hadn't seen, Nightbot very gracefully posted a link to the two of us talking about the Clone Wars. So if you're interested in a podcast that breaks down each and every episode of the Clone Wars in exhausting detail, it's actually...
Then you should listen to J Guys and Jedi.
Yeah.
But if you want a couple of guys rushing through it one day at a time without taking any time to think about it...
It's so great, though. It really is I shouldn't say that.
It's fun to do, that's for sure.
I think you did a great job. Bucho himself, he produced pretty much the podcast. I mean, the way that it works, the way that all I pretty much did is showed up and said things. So
you brought the charm, I brought the technical know-how.
I don't know about charm, technical. But it's a fun show. If you're interested in it, seriously, it is a lot of fun. Especially if you, I don't know. I wouldn't say that it's a, you got to watch Clone Wars. You do. But if you want to hear a breakdown of some of the stuff, and what's I like, my favorite thing, I like the making of stuff. I like the little Easter eggs they put in episodes and stuff. So it's a lot of fun. So check it out if you want to. It's just there. It's there. Looks like a 2007 page. Not a bad thing. I love 2007. David, I'm gonna smack you a little bit. No, I'm kidding. That is basically.
Is he talking about the Game Chasers movie Indiegogo, or is he talking about the Podbean page?
I think he's talking about the Podbean page. But it's
that's Podbean for you.
It's Podbean. Podbean is just he is not kidding. But it's a basic, a load up page. I mean, the point is, let's be honest. The point is, we want you to subscribe on iTunes or on Spotify or your, whatever of choice, so you can subscribe and get all of them. You can just download. You have in whatever podcast app you like. Use that. But anyway, It's fun.
Plus, it was it was a late 2000s show, so it makes sense to have a late 2000s looking page, right? Because it started in 2008, was it?
What?
Clone Wars.
A Clone Wars? Yeah, but we did it last year, but it's okay. we did the show last year, but that was actually
we did zero design on the page. That's just the Podbean. That's just what Podbean
Yeah.
gives you. I guess we chose some colors and chose the image and what have you, but
yeah.
I've gotten zero web design skills.
And me either. I had HTML skills back in the year 2000. That's when I stopped. So anything that's been since then, I don't know anything about it. So yeah, but there was actually a question related to Star Wars that I wanted to ask you about. And I know you've only got about what 10, 15 minutes left.
Man, we can hang out for another quarter of an hour or something.
Yeah, we should be able to get through this. And it was coming soon from Star Wars is Star Wars The Bad Batch, Cassian Andor series, Star Wars Obi-Wan, and
Season 2 of Mandalorian.
Season 2 of Mandalorian. Of those four things, what are you most excited about?
Season 2 of Mandalorian.
Really?
I don't know. Seeing Ewan again as Obi-Wan is probably really the number one, but it's unproven at the moment.
Right.
Whereas
There's
the
so many
Adventures of
questions.
Baby Yoda, like what's going to happen with all that?
Yeah.
That's such a fun. Mandalorian just did such a fun job of setting up that part of the galaxy that I really want to jump back into. So, but I'll be trying to watch all of them. I mean, I'm more of a fan of Rogue One than you are, so I'm look as a competition. I like Rogue One more than you. But I'm a fan of Rogue One, and so I'm into that Cassian Andor show. Ewan as Obi-Wan, so I'm looking forward to all of it. But I mean, the Mandalorian's already this proven. I mean, the Bad Batch, of course, it'd be fun to see the Bad Batch doing that thing again.
And that's
Crosshair will stop being so much of a dick, but maybe you'll keep being a dick because maybe it's fun when you have a character like that because you get to Crosshair.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I remember saying on our podcast was about on those Bad Batch episodes was like it'd be really cool to have a series. This was recorded like right after it came out. I said it'd be really cool to have a series that shows their exploits after the fact. What is Order 66? How do they are affected there? What's the thing? So it's really cool to see that they are doing that. But then there's a lot of people online that were like, this is a terrible idea. Who wanted the Bad Batch? I'm like,
I haven't seen any of that.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of people that they don't care.
Haters are gonna hate, Robbie.
I know.
It's a little saying I made up. I'm hoping it's gonna catch on, but basically, haters gonna hate.
I'm pretty sure that it is gonna catch on. So,
it's catchy, right?
In fact, if you have the number 8 in there, if you type it out, I mean, that almost ensures that you're gonna go viral. Idea. So let's all root for Bucho here, okay? But yeah, the Cassian Andor series, I'm really interested in that. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, just the idea. So you've got the Rebels before New Hope and Rogue One, but you've got the Rebels. They've got a spy network. That's what this show is going to be about. Spy network before all those movies. Could be really fun. I don't know.
It might be one of those things that's a little bit of I mean, because it's a prequel to a character and we know his eventual fate. It might be one of those things that has a sort of a bummer vibe underpinning it. But he got to go out pretty well. Like he got a good death in Rogue One,
Yeah.
Not like you wanted. You wanted Darth Vader to cut him down or something.
Yes, I did.
Which would have sucked, Robbie. That's a terrible idea. It's the worst idea. It's the worst idea I've ever heard you.
It's so funny.
I'm a fan of almost all of your ideas, but that is a bad one.
It's so funny though because there was a video that I watched. I should have saved it or sent it to you or something. But I remember watching a video that said one of my biggest issue with Rogue One is that the Vader part of the movie feels so tacked on. And if this was filmed during regular production, what would have been really cool, because I don't know if anybody knows that the whole Vader scene at the end was during reshoots. The rest of the movie was pretty much done, and they added that on at the end. So
that was Tony Gilroy's work,
right? So, but Gareth Edwards was the guy that pulls the thing. It's kind of weird that he would still been there.
They just had Tony Gilroy. They never fired Gareth Edwards. He was still around, but they had Tony Gilroy to come in and sort of doctor it a bit.
Well, if it had been part of the plan from the beginning, would they have done that? Would they have made Vader basically the main villain of the movie, and he's constantly hunting them down? And the heroics of what they do is that they're cut down by Vader at the end.
See, that is the part where you lose me every time. It's not heroic to get cut down by Vader. That is too much of your Vader fanboy taking over. What would have worked for me is if Sheridan Bays fought Vader off to buy Cassian and Jin time to finish the mission, and they were killed by Vader. Because seeing Vader fight Sheridan Bays would have been awesome. Imagine Bays with his massive gun. Vader's dealing with that. Sure, it's awesome. So if the rest of them are holding Vader off, but the two heroes, it's not heroic to get cut down by Vader. There's a disconnect for me there where I don't see what's heroic about. Getting killed by Vader is not a heroic act. Just because you get killed by Vader, how is getting killed by Vader more heroic than succeeding in your mission and you get killed in an act of self-sacrifice when the planet goes?
That's what I'm saying. That Jin is the one handing off the plans.
More heroic to get killed by Vader.
Do I know?
You're saying it'd be more heroic to get killed by Vader.
It's not more heroic. It just brings more gravitas to the characters because the characters fought off Vader all this time. They basically lose to him, but they still that Jin's the one. It's
not more heroic to lose to Vader than to beat him. He's trying to stop them getting the plans away. They get the plans away, and he doesn't kill them. That's more heroic. They beat him. Vader wanted to stop the plans getting away. He couldn't stop them. They beat Vader.
I think
it's more heroic than killed by Vader.
Well, I think that's one of my main issues in it is that one of my main issues with the movie as a whole is that it's sort of, and look, I don't want to get into big, The Last Jedi, all that stuff. But to me, a lot of the reason why The Force Awakens was done the way it was is because every time they tried to introduce Luke earlier in the story, you didn't want anything to do with anybody else. You just wanted to follow Luke. So that's why they put him at the end, which was basically saying, okay, we brought Luke back. Now let's hand this over to the next guy. That's what the plan was, because they didn't want to deal with the fact that their characters were being overshadowed by the original trilogy characters. Right? Rogue One.
And that's why in the final scene, Han Solo and Chewie go and plant all of the bombs that actually save the day while Finn and Rey are standing up on a platform, literal spectators. As Han Solo and Chewie, the original heroes, save the galaxy. The new heroes are spectators, just watching what's going on.
Yeah.
Good work, JJ.
Yeah, it's yeah. I thought you were saying that was a good thing. The way that you said it.
Stupid. The Force Awakens is stupid.
But I guess my issue is
that good stuff in it. I don't hate it.
No, I know. So but we
wanted to make the new heroes the feature, but let's have the old heroes be there.
Right. It's too much. It's like we don't know where to put our focus. And that's the same thing with Rogue One. We're supposed to be rooting against Krennic. We're supposed to hate Krennic. The problem is with Vader there, it takes it all away. And it makes Krennic less of a threat to me because Vader's always there in the background. It would have been better if Vader had never shown up in the entire movie and then he's there at the end. I don't understand why Krennic goes to see Vader.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any.
He's not elegantly incorporated. I
No.
don't think it takes away from Krennic. There is a sense that Krennic is disconnected from Jin. Like he's not as connected to Jin as he should be, considering that what
Right.
happens at the very start of the movie. So it's definitely not an elegantly made film. It still works for me. Like there's still a good momentum to it. I still have fun watching it from about the time Jin gets brought into Yavin onwards, because the start is very janky and doesn't flow at all. And then once Jin gets brought in at Yavin and in front of the rebels, I'm good from there on. But I agree with you that there are problems with the way that it could have been done better. I just think that your solution is not as worse than the solution they came up with. And I don't blame you for trying to think of another solution, because there is a better way to do it. I just think that having Vader be fought off by Baze and Chirrut and maybe the others as well.
Right.
So I think Jin and Cassian still have to have that victory where they don't get killed by Vader. And the way that they went out is beautiful. They won, even though they sacrificed themselves. I think if you have them killed by the enemy, that's less of a victory and it's less triumphant than them not being killed by the enemy. I don't see that's a mathematical way to think of it. But there's no way to make it more like having Vader kill them, having the enemy actually kill them directly. I mean, they get killed by the Death Star, so technically they are, but the personal death seems less triumphant to me. And I don't get why you see it being more triumphant.
I guess it's just because... By the way, Greedo shot first. David, thank you. Yeah. And he said, JJ, thank you for letting me like George Lucas. Yeah. Look, there's issues. There's issues with all of the movies, not just 7, 8, and 9. There's issues in all of them. Let's just be honest. Let's take the nostalgia glasses off and recognize that there are issues in all the movies. But that's okay.
Even Caravan of Courage?
Yes. Even Droids, the cartoon, even all of it. There's issues, okay? So you like what you like and you don't like what you don't like. My problem with Rogue One is that to me, creating Vader as the monster at the end, as almost a horror element, doesn't go far enough. Because I don't care about those characters that are being cut down. You should give some weight to that. And as you said, having him fight off our heroes and having them die that way might have been interesting. I'm not saying it would have been better. I'm just saying, from my perspective, if you're making Vader the monster, make him a monster all the way. Not just this half-ass, we're going to cut down this nobody. He needs to be more of a threat. You either make him the threat or you don't. Don't half-ass it. And
you mean you're talking about making more of a threat earlier in the film?
All of it. He should have been hunting them down.
Because at the end, he's the most terrifying thing
right
you've ever seen, right?
But that's the thing too, is that if you like I would say, I don't want to gatekeep, but the casual fan looks at that scene and they say, that is so awesome. It's the best Vader's ever been done. Not even close to the best Vader's ever been done. I've told you that scene in the comics is so
all
awesome.
I see around me is fear and dead men or something.
Yes.
Right?
They're like, you're surrounded, and he goes, all I'm surrounded by is fear and dead men, and then wipes them all out. It's awesome. That is the best Vader's ever been. Is in books and comic books. And the idea
and not when he says, be careful you don't choke on your aspirations.
That's okay. But even
I liked it.
But I even mentioned it in our, I keep going back to the Clone Wars podcast we did. But Sending the Clones, by the way, is what it's called. I even brought it up when Ventress does some of the stuff that she does in Clone Wars. It's more impressive to me what she does in Clone Wars than what Vader does in Rogue One. I just think that Vader, it's not going far enough. And I'm not saying to be super violent, cutting guys down the middle or anything crazy, but just make him more of a threat and make him haunting them everywhere they go. That would have made that scene more effective. To me, it seems tacked on. It feels like it's just a coda. It feels like it doesn't really matter. to the rest of the film. I get it. We're still following the plans.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't have the same impact as if it would if it was our heroes, the people that we've been following the whole time. It would have been interesting to see that.
Yeah. See, we mostly agree on that. I just think that it shouldn't. I'm happy with them killing any of the others but Jyn and Cassian. The way that it ends is perfect to me. The way that they have their triumph. They still get shut down by the old Death Star, but don't have them killed by Vader. Have Baze and Chirrut killed by Vader. Have Bodhi. And I think having him, because Baze and Chirrut are warriors and they're hardcore, and so Vader, they could be some sort of challenge, especially if Vader's facing a whole force of rebels, because you need a whole force to hold him off for a while. Because just Baze and Chirrut, it's not going to take him too long to take care of them. But maybe they can slow him down just long enough.
Just almost like just butter. We've been building them up the whole movie, and he just takes them out. And then the music from Raiders of the Lost Ark, when all the spirits, ting, 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 all that stuff, and they're running, and Vader's all, and he's throwing lightsabers and doing all kinds of crazy crap, force pulling guys onto a lightsaber hilt. I mean, come on. It could have been. It's like. It's just okay. And that's I don't like just okay when it comes to Star Wars. And for me, that's why Last Jedi was finally, they did Jedi power justice. And they didn't make it overpowered, and they didn't, nobody's pulling Star Destroyers out of the sky, nobody's doing anything crazy. But anyway, that's just me. It's all about character and motivation and plot, or character and lore, and less about what little trinket do we have to get to the next part in the script, JJ. Anyway, but guys, I think we're at the end, right? I mean, I think you gotta go, I've gotta go, because we've got, in fact, I don't know if probably people were skipping out to go watch the Snyder Cut thing that just happened. So I'm kind of interested if there's anything
Octavius and David Rivas didn't skip out.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, David Rivas points out that R2 was always cussing, and that's why he's bleeped. And Octavius brings up the Christmas special, which
we talked.
It does have a few issues. I mean, I got to admit, the Christmas special does have a couple of issues.
Yeah.
That don't really get talked about. Everyone talks about it as if it's perfect.
Mark Hamill's makeup. It's a little uncomfortable. I almost
but
feel
aside
like
from that, pretty much perfect.
Yeah, I almost feel like we should end on that image of his makeup. It's very weird. In fact, or maybe you, I'm sure you did. You saw all the, it's kind of like the face app type
The Right Stuff trailer?
Oh, no, I hadn't seen that yet. I need to watch it. But no, the stuff where they basically change the genders of like Mark Hamill in Star Wars. And one of them, he looks just like Jodie Foster, and one of this, so it's like a young Jodie Foster. But
I gotta look out for that.
Yeah,
is that on Twitter?
That's right. I don't remember where I saw it, because it's a couple of months old. I think maybe Scott was sending that around. Scott Kinney, our producer. But anyway, Bucho, it was great to have you on, sir.
It was good to be on, Robbie.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And guys, again,
we got to get heated about Rogue One. The best kind of Rogue One talk.
I still feel like Obi-Wan is I just want to say, I feel like Obi-Wan is still the one that I can't wait, because I love my Obi-Wan.
Yep.
But we'll see. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you again, Bucho. We'll be on Wednesday again let's hope there's some news to talk about. I'm sure there will be. But yeah.
Well, there's the rest of the DC fandom.
Oh yeah. I'm sure there's going to be plenty to break down. Yeah, for sure. Eagleford says stay safe.
Thank you, Mr. Eagleford, sir. I will do.
Yep. And yeah, I guess guys, we'll catch you next time.
Is it still going?
I just got it off. That was funny. David, quit spamming.